The room went dead silent the moment Tamar Braxton allegedly opened her mouth. Because what she was about to say wasn't gossip, it was a family execution in broad daylight. Sources swear the air shifted when she claimed that Evelyn Braxton didn't just control the family narrative. She decided who would be protected and who would be sacrificed. Witnesses say jaws dropped as Tamar's voice stayed eerily calm. Like someone who had carried this truth for years and finally let it bleed. Phones reportedly started vibrating instantly as insiders realized this wasn't another messy headline. This was a legacy about to collapse. Tamar allegedly revealed that Traci and Michael weren't sidelined by bad luck or timing. According to her, they were chosen, handpicked to carry the weight so others could rise. The word sacrifice hit the room like a gunshot. And suddenly, every awkward interview, every missed opportunity, every forced smile made terrifying sense. Insiders claim Tamar hinted at secret conversations, silent agreements, and moments where loyalty was demanded without explanation. As she spoke, whispers reportedly spread that this wasn't just about family. It was about control, image, and survival. Social media erupted within minutes. Cryptic posts appeared, vanished, then reappeared as screenshots. Fans knew something massive had cracked open. Tamar allegedly warned that once this truth surfaces, it can't be buried again. And just when everyone thought the bomb had already exploded, she reportedly suggested Evelyn didn't act alone. That's when panic set in. Because if that's true, then this story isn't just shocking, it's dangerous. And this was only the beginning. What happened after Tamar's alleged bombshell was not loud at first. It was quieter than anyone expected. Sources say the silence that followed her words felt heavier than screaming. People reportedly avoided eye contact, as if looking at one another would confirm that something irreversible had just been exposed. Tamar allegedly sat back, unshaken, like someone who had already mourned what was about to be lost. According to insiders, she said this wasn't a story about anger. It was about math. Who gained? Who lost? And who paid the price without ever being told they were on the altar? That's when she allegedly named Traci and Michael, not as victims, but as proof. Proof that sacrifices were not accidental, but intentional, repeated, and justified under the banner of family survival. Sources claim Tamar began recounting moments that fans had seen, but never understood. Missed opportunities that were explained away as timing. Career moves that never quite made sense. Private struggles that were edited out of the public narrative. According to those present, Tamar alleged that Traci was repeatedly pushed into positions that served the family brand, even when it stalled her individual growth. Friends of Traci reportedly said she often questioned why doors opened for everyone else while hers stayed half-closed. Tamar allegedly claimed those doors were shut on purpose, not out of cruelty, but calculation. The family needed a backbone, someone to absorb disappointment without exploding the structure. Traci, in this version of events, was strong enough to endure. So she was chosen to carry it. Michael's situation, Tamar allegedly said, was more subtle and more suffocating. Sources claim she described how his role in the family was quietly defined early on. Be steady, be loyal, don't disrupt the image. According to insiders, Tamar alleged that Michael's independence was treated as a risk factor, something to be managed rather than encouraged. Decisions about his life were allegedly filtered through what would keep the family intact and marketable. Friends say Tamar described watching Michael compromise again and again. Not because he agreed, but because disagreement came with consequences. The revelation reportedly reframed years of silence, turning it from passivity into survival. As Tamar continued, insiders say the emotional temperature in the room rose sharply. She allegedly referenced private conversations with Evelyn that never made it to cameras. Moments where love and authority blurred into something harder to name. According to sources, Tamar claimed Evelyn framed these sacrifices as temporary, necessary, and ultimately beneficial for everyone. But temporary stretched into permanent. Necessary became unquestionable. And beneficial, Tamar allegedly said, depended entirely on who you asked. Witnesses report that Tamar's voice cracked for the first time when she said that some sacrifices don't heal with time. They calcify. They turn into resentment disguised as loyalty. The first major twist reportedly landed when Tamar suggested that these decisions didn't exist in a vacuum. According to insiders, she claimed Evelyn was under pressure from forces the public never saw. Industry figures who treated the family like a chessboard. Advisors who whispered about optics, timing, and damage control. Tamar allegedly said that in moments of crisis, someone always had to be moved off the board to protect the king. And too often, that someone was Traci or Michael. The implication stunned the room. Because if true, it meant these sacrifices were not just maternal choices, but strategic responses to external threats. Sources say Tamar hinted at specific moments when careers could have shifted, when opportunities were within reach and then quietly disappeared. According to her alleged account, explanations were given, but never the full truth. Friends of the family reportedly recalled being told that certain paths were not right now. Without understanding that right now was a code word for never, Tamar allegedly claimed she pieced this together over years. Watching patterns repeat, watching the same people bend while others advanced. The realization, she reportedly said, was devastating. As word of Tamar's statements began leaking, social media ignited. Fans dug through old footage, resurfacing moments that suddenly felt loaded with meaning. A forced laugh. A tense reunion. A comment that sounded harmless until placed in context. Hashtags exploded as theories multiplied. According to insiders, Tamar did nothing to stop the speculation. She allegedly said that once people see the pattern, they can't unsee it. Screenshots of supposed insider messages began circulating, claiming that certain family members knew more than they ever admitted. The idea that silence was shared, not isolated. Intensified feelings of betrayal among fans. Behind the scenes, sources say family group chats became war zones. Accusations were allegedly typed, deleted, and then sent anyway. Tamar reportedly received messages urging her to stop, to think about the fallout, to remember what was at stake. Her alleged response was simple. What was already lost deserved to be named. Friends claimed Traci was overwhelmed, caught between gratitude for the truth and pain over its timing. Michael reportedly oscillated between anger and numbness, questioning how much of his life had been shaped by invisible hands. The tension reportedly spiked when Tamar hinted at evidence. Not just memories, but records. Old messages. Voice notes. Conversations that explained why certain choices were framed as unavoidable. According to insiders, she stopped short of releasing anything, but the suggestion alone sent shockwaves. Media outlets circled. Bloggers sharpened knives. Fans demanded receipts. Tamar allegedly said receipts change everything, but once they're out, there's no going back. That warning hung in the air like a threat. As the narrative grew, so did the divide. Some defended Evelyn fiercely, insisting that mothers make impossible choices to protect their children. Others argued that protection without consent is control by another name. Tamar allegedly acknowledged both sides, but maintained that intention doesn't erase impact. Sources say she emphasized that Traci and Michael were never given the dignity of choice. Sacrifice was decided for them, and that, she claimed, was the original sin. The first phase of fallout ended not with resolution, but with dread. Tamar allegedly closed her final remarks by saying this story wasn't finished telling itself, that the decisions made years ago were still unfolding, still demanding payment. According to insiders, she implied that the next revelation wouldn't be about what was done, but why it had to be hidden for so long. That implication alone was enough to leave everyone shaken. Because if the truth had been buried this deeply, then whatever it was protecting must be even more dangerous. And as the silence returned, heavier than before, one thing was clear. This wasn't just exposure. It was ignition. It was ignition. What followed next, according to insiders, was when the story stopped being about the past and started threatening the present. Tamar allegedly realized the truth had outgrown her control. Friends say she began receiving late-night calls from people she hadn't spoken to in years. Voices low, words chosen carefully, all asking the same thing without saying it outright. How much do you really know? According to sources, that's when Tamar understood the sacrifices weren't just personal scars. They were part of a system that was still operating, still protecting something, still hiding someone. And the idea that Traci and Michael were collateral damage suddenly felt incomplete. Because collateral damage only exists when there's something worth shielding. Insiders claim Tamar then dropped what many described as the most unsettling revelation yet. She allegedly said there were moments when Evelyn hesitated, moments where she questioned whether the price was too high. But each time someone else stepped in, someone who reminded her of consequences, not emotional ones, professional ones, reputational ones, legal ones. According to Tamar's alleged account, these reminders always came at critical crossroads. When one wrong move could expose something buried deep in the family's foundation, witnesses say the implication froze the room. If Evelyn was being steered, then the narrative of control fractured into something darker. Coercion disguised as guidance. Sources say Tamar claimed she'd recently been sent an old audio clip by an anonymous contact. A recording from years ago, never meant to survive, where voices discussed managing exposure and acceptable losses. Tamar allegedly didn't play it, but described its tone, calm, and transactional, like a business meeting rather than a family discussion. According to insiders, she said hearing it confirmed what she'd suspected for years. The sacrifices were negotiated. Traci's stalled rise, Michael's constrained role, all calculated to keep the spotlight fixed where it was safest. The room reportedly filled with disbelief, because at that point, this wasn't just betrayal. It was orchestration. As word of this alleged recording spread quietly, panic followed. Friends claim Evelyn's inner circle scrambled, urging silence, damage control, unity. Publicly, nothing changed. Privately, everything fractured. Tamar allegedly received messages accusing her of misunderstanding context, of exaggerating fragments into narratives. Her response, insiders say, was sharp. Context doesn't erase consent, and consent was never given. That line reportedly became a rallying cry online once it leaked, igniting another wave of outrage. Fans who once defended the matriarch began asking uncomfortable questions. What exactly required this level of secrecy? And why were Traci and Michael the ones who always seemed to disappear when things got tense? Traci's emotional state, sources say, became increasingly fragile under the weight of public dissection. Friends report she felt exposed twice over, first by the sacrifices themselves, then by the world analyzing them. Tamar allegedly tried to shield her, but the machine had already started. Michael, meanwhile, reportedly confronted people he'd trusted for years, demanding answers that came wrapped in half-truths and deflections. Insiders claim one exchange ended with a chilling statement: "You're safer not knowing." That sentence alone reportedly confirmed everything Tamar had been saying. Safety had always been the currency, and Traci and Michael had paid in full. The story took another violent turn when a supposed insider leaked a timeline online. Not names, not proof, just dates and coincidences lining up too perfectly to ignore. Career pivots, sudden cancellations, legal scares that never became public. Fans connected dots faster than anyone expected. According to sources, Tamar didn't confirm or deny the timeline, but her silence was read as validation. Media outlets hesitated, aware that one wrong accusation could implode careers. But the audience didn't hesitate at all. The narrative had escaped containment. Insiders say the most devastating moment came when Tamar allegedly admitted she once benefited from the same system she was now exposing. That confession reportedly broke something open. She said protection came with strings, and she pulled them without fully understanding who was being held back in exchange. Witnesses describe her voice shaking as she acknowledged complicity. Not malice, survival. That admission reframed her entire role. transforming her from whistleblower to participant seeking redemption. Fans reacted with shock, then reluctant respect. Because owning your place in the damage doesn't undo it, but it does change the story, as tensions peaked. Rumors surfaced that legal teams were quietly being consulted, not to sue Tamar, but to prepare. According to insiders, this was never about silencing her. It was about bracing for impact. Because if one recording existed, there could be more. And if those surfaced, the narrative wouldn't just embarrass the family. It could implicate powerful outsiders who had long since moved on, assuming the past was sealed. Tamar allegedly hinted at this exact fear, saying some people were nervous not because they were wrong, but because they were named. The emotional core of the story, however, remained Traci and Michael. Friends say Traci questioned whether her resilience had been mistaken for consent. Michael reportedly grappled with the idea that his loyalty had been weaponized. Tamar allegedly told them both the same thing. Truth doesn't give you back what was taken, but it gives you language for the pain. That sentiment spread online, quoted and reposted until it became the moral spine of the scandal. The final moments of this phase unfolded quietly, almost cruelly so. According to insiders, Tamar received confirmation that the audio she'd referenced was real, authenticated by someone with nothing to gain from lying. She allegedly didn't share it. Not yet. Instead, she told a confidant that releasing it would change everything. Not just for her family, but for people who never expected their names to resurface. That choice, to wait, sent shockwaves through those who knew what was coming. The cliffhanger now hangs heavier than ever. Because the question is no longer whether Traci and Michael were sacrificed. It's what exactly those sacrifices were covering up. And who will fall when the protection finally collapses? The silence surrounding the next move isn't peace. It's a countdown. Now don't look away, because this is the moment where choosing silence makes you complicit. What you've just heard isn't finished, and it isn't safe to ignore. Stories like this don't fade, they explode. The people who are watching closely are the ones who understand what really happened when the truth finally surfaces. If you felt your stomach tighten, if you caught yourself replaying moments from the story, that's because this isn't just entertainment. It's a warning. Power, secrecy, and sacrifice don't disappear on their own. They're exposed by attention. This conversation is already moving without you. Fans are dissecting every frame, every pause, every deleted post. Insiders are watching the comments to see which way the public leans. And the next reveal won't wait for anyone who wasn't paying attention. Missing the next chapter means letting others decide the narrative for you. That's why you need to act right now. Hit like if you believe the truth matters, even when it's uncomfortable. Drop your opinion in the comments, because your voice adds pressure, and pressure changes outcomes. Do you think Traci and Michael were protecting something bigger than themselves, or were they trapped in a system that fed on silence? Say it out loud. Subscribe and turn on notifications, because when the next piece drops, it won't come with a warning, it'll come with consequences. This story isn't cooling down. It's heating up. And the only question left is whether you'll be watching from the inside, or finding out too late.